Hello everyone and welcome to the UkeStuff channel. Today I am very excited to finally bring my review for the Enya Nova Concert Travel Ukulele to you. So before I begin, I'd like to show you my Enya. Okay, so actually let me tell you the truth about this. After I had recorded an initial review of this instrument, and in that process, I'd contacted Enya. I'd asked them if they'd be interested in sending me a defective Enya that they would be willing to let me basically destroy. I've actually never destroyed a ukulele before, although there's a $10 one at a local sort of hardware slash all goods store for sale that I'm tempted to do that with. But they did. They sent me this white one, and actually you can see it still working if you take a look at the most recent episode of the UkeStuff podcast, or the episode, I think it's number 22. But yeah, and I'll show you how this one fared a little bit later. But so I'll put that down on the side because they're also making too much noise. The actual Enya mine that I bought is right here. And so I don't have the strap with me. I've been using one of my other straps, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it comes in kind of this foamy-ish case, and you've seen these all over YouTube. So I know that there are at least 4 or 5 other YouTube videos of this instrument and reviews, all the way from Barry Maz, who had the first one on Got a Ukulele. Katie Demure has done it. Bernadette has done it. Girl Meets Uke, Jody has done it, Rich has done it. It's been all over. So you might want to look at what they have to say. I think I'm going to take a little different angle at it. And the only positive about being this late in a review of an instrument, there's a couple things I'll bring to you. Number one is I paid for this myself. I was sent one to destroy, but this was one that I had bought myself and was waiting for, and it finally came, even after other reviews were being made. So I have my own personal money invested in this instrument, and then I get the benefit of hearing what everybody else has said. Oh yeah, Cool Cat Ukuleles reviewed it recently as well, Simon, in the UK. So let me just tune this thing up. It doesn't take too long. It stays in tune really well, as long as my tuner is going to work. The battery may be going out. There we go. That's one of those Joyo 99-cent tuners that I ordered off of eBay a while ago. I just throw that in that little foam case. But or something like that. So it is a concert-sized polycarbonate ukulele, and Simon at Cool Cat said that it's about 30% carbon fiber. That's what you're looking at. They come in different colors. The black and everything that you see is not actually the real color. It has a coating on top. It's painted or coated on top that above the actual plastic. So when you have something like an outdoor ukulele, although they're trying some new models on outdoor ukulele, you're generally looking at the material itself Whereas on the Enya, you're looking at a finish on top. And the difference is, like with an outdoor ukulele, you can see where the top is attached and all that. On the Enya, putting that over there so it doesn't fall down, on the Enya, you just get smooth functionality all the way around. So let's talk about it. These are currently $90 new. I think that's going to be the going price for them. With that, you get a case, you get a strap button on both sides, you get a strap, you get a matching capo of the color of the instrument you chose, you get extra strings. Let's see if I can do it in the light without... No, that's not going to work. You're not going to be able to see that. But you get extra strings and strings for life if you're registered with them. So when you feel like you need a string change, you send them an email and they'll send you a pack of strings. That's pretty incredible as it goes. And if you want the trans acoustic model, which has a speaker inside and USB stuff in it, you can actually do some effects like chorus and delay right from the ukulele, inside the ukulele as you play it, or it also works with a pickup. So you have that as an option too. So that is available as well with the Enya Nova. So you can either get the standard or the trans acoustic. I actually am starting to look at that trans acoustic and may consider it later. Now, as it comes to value, there are a bunch of features on this ukulele, and we'll be talking about them very soon, that make this an incredible bargain. Let me point out a few of them that are included. The side sound port is often an issue that's connected with a more expensive ukulele. It has a radius fretboard. It's a slight radius, but you can see it, and when you put something straight on it, you can see the bends. Radius fretboards only start any less expensively or about the same price point with the other Enya, the HPL X1 ukuleles that they make. Otherwise, you have to jump to several $100s before you can buy a ukulele that has a radius fretboard. So that's pretty amazing. The case that it comes with and the accessories, it just ultimately, it makes it a really good value. So with that, I would say that you're getting an incredible deal for the money when you buy one of these for $90, and probably even the trans acoustic at $195. And the closest ukuleles you're going to find to the Enya is the outdoor ukulele, which is styled very differently and is not the same ukulele. And actually, that is one of the things that I'm very glad to talk about later in this video, is in being able to destroy one of these. Again, awkward for me to do, but in being able to destroy one of these, I realized that this ukulele, while it's a travel ukulele, it is not intentionally a rugged ukulele. So it really isn't the same as an outdoor ukulele. So we'll talk more about it, and eventually I'll do a comparison with some other plastic ukuleles as well, since I do have access to a Waterman concert and some others. So we'll talk about it later. The build quality, basically, it's flawless. Now, there are little things that I don't like, and it's generally not about the ukulele, it's about other stuff. So the case, as Katie Denier pointed out, if you grab it, the case zipper near the zipper, you get through the bends better, but it gets caught all the time. I don't like that. It doesn't have a strap on the case. I think Jody at Girl Meets Uke pointed that out, and that's something that I mentioned. I don't like that it doesn't have a pocket or anything in there where you could safely just tuck away a tuner, because it fits in there, but I just like a little strap or something so that you could put a tuner and it wouldn't rattle around. So that is, these are really nitpicking things for a pretty decent case that's going to keep your ukulele, protected. But again, if you're walking at an event, you kind of want to put your ukulele over your back rather than always carrying it by this handle. And nothing wrong with the handle. Handle's great. The case is holding up good. And you can see I've got some dirt on it, although I think I just wiped it off when I was doing it. But that's kind of what we're looking at. So, and then the strap, the ukulele strap, is really wide and it's shorter than I would like. And I've shared all these comments with Enya, and they've been very open to that feedback. So don't be surprised if someday you see this case come out with a strap included, or that you see a different thickness of the strap, or it becomes a little wider, because it sounds to me like they are open to feedback. Now, as for the appearance, you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it. My students seem to love it, and actually you can see my fingerprints down there, and that doesn't bother me. I could wipe it down, but I've got this to play, and it's a travel ukulele, so I'm not too bothered by that. But my students really like that. Now, if you want a traditional shaped ukulele, you've got ultra ukuleles, you've got the Cala Watermans you can go with. So it does have a little bit of that rock star nature to it, right, in terms of its design. But this cutout is so incredibly functional when you're playing up high. Really no problems at all. So again, I love this appearance. My students seem to love this appearance. I've got students asking me like where they can buy one, which is really simple. The answer is Amazon, or you could enya-music.com, which is their US website. So it's out there, it's available, it's good. Which is the next question. It's readily available, Amazon and their own website, enya-music.com. As for playability, the nut is more narrow than I'd like, but the depth of the neck is really thin, so that makes that easier to play and do bar chords. And then the radius is slight, and it's enough that it makes it more playable. So even though string spacing is narrower than you'd like, or I would like, and the nut is thinner than I'd like, it's still ultimately very, very, very playable because of the other things with it. So, you know what? It's very playable. I wonder what would happen if they made the neck a little wider and those string spacing a little more. I don't know. I don't know what would happen. Maybe it'd be harder to play a radius ukulele with the strings spaced out further. I just don't know, but it's just what I'm noticing. The sound quality, I think, is fantastic. A lot of ukuleles have a very, very tubby sound. And not ukuleles, but plastic ukuleles or polycarbonate ukuleles. If I even play my, I'll pull out the soprano outro ukulele, see how tuned we are. Close enough. And if you can hear that, it has a little more of a tubbiness. Now, some people say, oh, I like the darker in depth. But even that, now it's not as tubby as some other ukuleles like the Waterman concert, for example. It's not a bad sound at all, which is one of the reasons why I do still recommend outdoor ukuleles. But I like the clarity of the Enya. Now, it does seem to carry a bit more treble, but it's not an overbalanced treble. So it's good. The volume is good. It's not super loud. And so it's loud enough that I think you'd hear yourself in a group setting, whereas sometimes the outdoor ukulele gets lost. The Flight TUS-35, that with that wood soundboard, sometimes can be really, really loud. And in a classroom setting, perhaps too loud when you have 30 ukuleles at a time. Things like that. But I like the tone. I think it's brighter, but it's balanced. I think it's loud. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that this is a thin line ukulele. So this is not a traditional thick ukulele. It does have an arched back. You can see that in there as well. And that arched back helps bring out the sound. And then interestingly, the sound hole is that Enya shape, which again you're going to like or you're going to hate. And then you have the side sound port. It works tremendously well. So I really like the sound of this. I think it's excellent. So let's talk about specifics officially about it. That's enough of the subjective issues. Let's talk about the objective issues. It's a concert ukulele, 15.75 inches, so a little bit longer than your traditional concert of 15. Has 18 frets in the entire thing. Oh, and then by the way, one other thing nobody else has mentioned, and I really noticed it when I broke apart the ukulele. Let me pull it over to you. It really stuck out. Do you see the shape of the sound of the fretboard? That is something that I hadn't noticed before. This fretboard has kind of a neat swoopy tail on it, which is just kind of neat. Nobody else has mentioned that, and I thought that's pretty cool. By the way, you can see what the back of that looks like there, of the broken Enya. But anyway, it does not have side marker dots. I wish that it did. If you have any negative of this instrument, that's probably it. You might want to put little dots of like maybe fingernail polish. You could do a little punch on a piece of masking tape and just do a little dab of fingernails polish or paint, and you could do that as well. Double bout cutout shape, which again is going to differ from your traditional double bout just a little bit. And you can imagine what it would look like if they had the other side of it. It might be interesting what would happen if they made a model without the cutout, and to see what people would think of that. But I think for the style, this works pretty well. Everything on here is this polycarbonate / carbon fiber. And again, Simon from Cool Cats Uke says 30% carbon fiber. So everything you're seeing here, other than the tuners and the strap buttons, are polycarbonate. Oh, and the strings are polycarbonate. The strings are fluorocarbon. We can talk about those in a second too. But so back, top, sides, the bridge, the saddle is removable. I'll show you that later with the broken one. But it's all good. So all polycarbonate with a radius fretboard. Has a compensated saddle too. So again, giving the C string and the E string a little more space. If you wanted to put a low G on this ukulele, you might have some intonation issues with that, because again, you can't adjust this saddle in terms of the angle that it's giving the string to be longer or shorter. And that might be worth an email to Enya to ask if they could make a low G saddle for this ukulele. I don't know if they can. And if I remember, I'll ask too. But that'd be the one thing, is if you wanted to string at low G, you might have some intonation issues with that. The finish is flat. It's a painted additional finish. To show you an example of that, here's where I dropped it on some concrete, and you can see that if you scrape off the finish, boy, that light is so bright. I'm trying to see if I can get this in a way that you can see it. There you go. You can see that the black actual polycarbonate underneath shows through. And I would imagine that if you were going to actually travel with it and put in rough conditions, those sorts of marks would become very common on your ukulele. I would then lean towards buying the black one, where a scratch on the black isn't going to show through as much. But again, that's up to you. And I also suggested Enya that they might want to sell little vials of touch-up paint for people that might happen to. I don't know if they will, but just, I was talking about it. Overall length is 25 1/4 inches, not counting the strap button. 1 pound, 4.6 ounces, so not very heavy. Tuners are open geared. And Jody at Girl Meets Uke had one tuner that wasn't turning too well for her. So my suggestion to Jody would have been to email Enya and ask them to send her a replacement tuner, because I'm sure they would have done that, and maybe she still can. The action is lower than 0.5 millimeters at the first fret and is 2.5 millimeters at the 12th fret, which is what I'm looking for. I don't need any lower than that. I don't need any higher than that. That's good for me. The nut width is a very narrow 34.4 millimeters, and the space between strings is a very narrow 7.84 millimeters at the first fret. So in other words, if you measure this from G to A, it's only 26.202 millimeters apart, so 26 millimeters. That's 3 millimeters smaller than most string layouts from G to A. So, but again, because of that radius fretboard, I think it's less noticeable. And the depth at the 3rd fret from strings to the bottom of the neck is 20.25 millimeters with kind of a flat profile. So it feels really good to play. The flat finish feels really good, and it's all very, very good. And I think I've mentioned that it comes with a case, a strap, strings for life, strap buttons, and a capo if you want to get it. Now let's talk about the dropping of the ukulele a little bit. So again, I contacted Enya and asked them about the durability, because my big question was, okay, I'm really liking this ukulele. I think it's great, but how's it going to stand up to an outdoor ukulele? Because I have dragged my outdoor ukuleles around to a lot of places. They don't necessarily need a case. They can get scratched. I've dropped one on cement and it chewed up the polycarbonate a bit, but it, didn't really hurt the ukulele. They can break, they can be broken, you can run them over the car, and you name it, it can happen. So I said, if you guys don't need tests with it, and they were just wrote back and said, well, yeah, we had a conversation back and forth, and eventually they just said, well, we'll just send you one. And I was like, well, that's really nice. So what I did was I started off by dropping it here where I record these videos in my basement. And our basement has, you know, a normal sort of carpet with a carpet pad on concrete. And I dropped it this way like 2 or 3 times. I dropped it on its front a bunch of times so it could fall off a chair. No problems. There was enough of a cushion there. Everything was fine. I put it onto a heater, and I'll like link up some videos or maybe even put the videos while I'm talking about this. I put on a heater and rested on a space heater that I use in our basement. I live in Wisconsin, close to the Minnesota border, where it's getting cold right now. It's been like 17 degrees Fahrenheit over the last few days. And so in our basement, we don't have any like house heat normally. So we have a space heater, and I rested on the space heater in front of the heating vent. Well, what happened was, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, but there's a little bit of coloration issue. The finish turned a little yellow, but otherwise it just got warm. It didn't warp, nothing. So it was fine. Then I took it to school. I had it strung up on the ukulele hooks where my ukuleles are hung, or our ukuleles are hung. And I rigged a way to pull the ukulele off the hook so it would fall on the ground like a kid, not bring it up all the way and it falls to the ground. And what I found out was that every time I pulled it off, it landed on its face and it was fine. So that really wasn't working for me. It wasn't causing any damage. And what I need to also mention is the floors in my room are made of terrazzo, which is kind of this combination of like little chips of rock and concrete and other things. And it's really strong. It's really strong. It's really hard. It's really durable. And it's really damaging when you drop things like electronics and other things on it. We've seen that too many times in our school where iPads and MacBooks and other things are just destroyed when they land because it's just the surface has no give. Well, where these hang, there is a adhesive carpet, very, very thin without a pad, and that's it. So I wrapped a string around the center of the body and managed to make it so when it came out, it kind of spun like this and landed, boom, right here on the end of it. And that caused, let's see if I can get it in the light. Again, this is where the light is not helping me out a little bit. You can see right here, it caused a crack. The crack caused the bottom to separate, or the top to separate, and then just repeated drops. Basically, if you take a look here, it basically just broke out the ukulele to about here, and then I physically manhandled the last part. So it took a drop at its on the button to cause that to expand and the energy to come out to cause the top to pop off. Had I stopped at that point and re-glued it, even though it wouldn't be pretty because it had again, the top had separated and that finish where it's smooth was separated. Had I stopped there and just simply glued that with a strong like automotive adhesive or something, the ukulele would have not looked so pretty, but it still would have been functional. But I kept dropping it and messing with it, which allowed me to take a look at the inside. So that was I was glad to. I noticed there's a little bit of overspray for where they're finishing. You can see where the bridge is, and I didn't even mention the bridge earlier. My mistake. If you take a look at this bridge, I like it a lot. It's a lot like the outdoor ukulele in how it works. That you can just tie your string and drop it up. It's an ingenious slotted bridge which is going to stand the test of time, which I really like. But you can see the bracing on the back of the Enya ukulele, which I thought was pretty good. And then also, reaching over, here's the saddle. And what's cool about the saddle is that it has a little notch in it, and so does the actual bridge, that it only has one spot it can go. It can't slide around in that, which there is no place for it to go, but that's just kind of an interesting design feature that's added with the saddle that you get. And now it's going in there and will come out, which is just fine. I can tap it out or whatever. So it's kind of fun to see what it looks like on the inside too. You can see the bracing of why the neck is so stiff and why it doesn't bend. There was a crack that developed in the headstock as well that's coming off of this tuner. And let's see, what else did I do? Oh, I also dropped this piece in my oven, turned on the oven. I was a little concerned about this because if it was going to start melting or burning or smoking, I didn't want to set off the smoke alarms in our house. And I also do a lot of my video recording and other things at the end of the day when my family's asleep, so that would not have been good. But I did anyway. I turned on the oven, set it for 170 degrees, which is about as low as it would go, but is within 5 or 10 degrees of as hot as a car is supposed to get in the summer. And I left this in there for 25 minutes, and nothing. It didn't warp. It just got hot, and then afterwards it cooled down, and it still fits perfectly, well, except for being broken, onto the top of the rest of the body here. So incidentally, it had broken to about here with repeated drops, and then on another drop it snapped there, which is logical because there's that has that fancy little Enya design, and it snapped there right where it's the least amount of material. So that's okay. So I could literally, and I might, take glue and glue that back together, and that would work with just the missing part of the Enya. I didn't save that. I was like, that's gone. So there's that. And they also, I forgot to mention too, is I was dropping it like this. I was talking with Enya, and they said in their own tests that they had also found that was the weak point. So what they've done is they've waited, even though it's hard to tell when you're holding it. When you're holding the Enya, it's balanced, but they have it weighted so that if it falls down, the instrument is going to try to land on its face rather than on the weak point on the instrument. I thought that was actually pretty smart in talking with them about this instrument. Then I also took it and dropped it a few times in a parking lot, and that's where these scratches occur. So I think realistically, if you take this as a true travel ukulele, you travel with it, that's where you're going to run into problems, is you might scuff it up. So that's where I started realizing with an outdoor ukulele, that's different. Outdoor ukulele, it's like just go throw it in your backpack. Don't have to put a cover on it. Just drag it elsewhere, anywhere, heat or whatever, and it's going to be fine. This one does require just an ounce more care, but I think it does sound better. I think it does, if I'm honest. It's at a better price point. It's going to handle much of the same conditions. It's just you should use the case with it and treat it a little more generally than just dragging it across concrete. And I think that's fair because most of us don't want to drag our ukuleles across concrete anyway. So I'm really pleased by this. This was a surprise release for me. I have loved everything that Enya has done since I saw the little X1 EUR model, the little round one that I have. I think I've reviewed that one as well a couple times. I think I've done it on the UkeGuide. If I haven't, I will soon. But again, polycarbonate, carbon fiber ukulele, like the step up of the outdoor ukulele. Again, this is a pure polycarbonate. This is polycarbonate with added carbon fiber in it, like outdoor ukulele offers as well. But it has a few more touches and a few more features. It's a thin line. It has the radius fretboard. It has the side sound port. It has the really well-designed cutaway with 2 levels of the cutaway. So not only do you have the first cutaway, but you have an out angle here that makes it really comfortable to play up the neck. Odd that I'm demonstrating that, by the way, on the broken ukulele, isn't it? So let me pull that one over, back like that. The idea that they offer a trans acoustic version, I think I know what I want to get for Christmas. The design is either you're going to love it or leave it, but it hits a definite niche of a good sounding plastic / polycarbonate ukulele that can withstand a lot of conditions, but at a lower price than even the Soprano. I think the Sopranos now are starting at $115 of the outdoor ukulele, and a much better instrument than you'll find, and many more features than, for example, the Flight TUS-35 or the Waterman Concert Ukulele, which might be cheaper by $40, but they also don't come with the accessories or the features that this ukulele comes with. So I'm going to recommend this to you, and I'm also going to recommend it to you on the basis that I know that the company is going to stand behind the product. So, for example, like with Jody at Girl Meets Uke, I would have contacted Enya and let them know that there was something wrong with the tuner. It wasn't working right. I guarantee you they would have solved that problem. I had a friend who had another Enya whose neck was bowed. At least he felt it was bowed in his opinion of what a bowed neck is like. And he reached out to the company and they sent him a second neck. That didn't work out. He still felt that it wasn't right. They refunded him his money. They've made right with everybody that I know that's complained, even though I know there's a couple people, and there's actually only one on one of the ukulele forums that continues to complain about Enya every chance they get. Now, in terms of quality control, with this ukulele, I was very not happy about breaking a perfectly good ukulele. I wanted one that was defective, maybe missing tuners or whatever. And they sent me this one without a second case, without the other stuff. They just sent it in a box. So, they didn't, this wasn't a standard one. But what Enya let me know is this one, there's a spacer that raises the tuning head gear, the lowest gear, a little bit so that these tuners work. And as such, this unit was considered defective because they had to have that. So that tells me not only do every Enya I've seen come set up very well. I know people like to do things even lower or whatever, but for me, for general purposes, every Enya I've ever played has been set up very well. Their tolerance for a reject is incredibly low. I wish other ukulele manufacturers could follow that. It's also odd to just be holding the headstock of a ukulele that's broken. Very strange. Very strange. But anyway, I wanted to point out how incredible that quality control is there. So many thanks to Enya for sending me a ukulele that I could destroy. I don't want to do that on a regular basis. So if there are other ukulele companies that want to send me a ukulele to destroy, I'd be happy to do it. But please send me a broken one. I don't want to break a perfectly good ukulele. I don't like the videos where somebody takes a brand new working iPhone and blends it. Although I'm entertained by that. I don't necessarily like it. I'm happy to stress test a standard ukulele as long as it isn't a good functioning ukulele in the first place, or it's been labeled defective. So with the Enya Nova Concert Ukulele, this is a really long video, but that's okay. I think there's lots of fun stuff to come with it. With this video, I'm going to give it 5 ukuleles out of 5. I think this is an incredible bargain. I think the features that it has, I think the sound is great. I think that a beginner would be well served by this. I think a more advanced player would be well served with this. I like the fact that you have some peace of mind when you're using it, that it's not super fragile. I'm also okay with it, with the idea that you can't just throw it, on the concrete and not worry about it. I'm okay with the fact that maybe, as an item with a finish, you have to keep it in a case. Would I love to see those little things fixed, like side marker dots, straps on the case, a little pocket in the case, a little thinner strap, a little longer strap? Yes, I'd like all those things. But for $90, people, this is an incredible deal, and I highly recommend it, and I would love to get the Transacoustic to play with that as well. So, thanks for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. We will catch you next time.